I'm the creative director of Irrational Games, and we're showing off Bioshock Infinite today.
Your games are always so original and unique compared to other games. Where do you guys?
I agree.
Where do you guys get your ideas from?
I think Irrational is a lot of overly intellectually stimulated guys and girls who there's a lot of history buffs, there's a lot of film buffs, there's a lot of art buffs, and we sort of try to draw. Not because we're like, oh, we need to do something from history because that would be good for us. We're just like nerds, we're history nerds and art nerds and video game nerds and all these different kinds of nerds. And we like to sort of combine all our different nerderies and bring them together. And so, a lot of our games tend to have, nods to science and nods to culture and nods to, social. I'm going to say, no, I was about to say social studies, but sociology. Social studies are like the high school version of that.
Right.
So I think we just sort of, we're a group of guys who just has this fairly broad range of interests, and we just like to bring that into the work.
So talk a little about how you brought that aspect into the new Bioshock game.
Well, I think that people, once we sort of establish the franchise, I think people understand that a Bioshock game is going to involve aspects of history. It's going to involve aspects of science. It's going to involve aspects of culture and politics and those things. Because the first game certainly had all those aspects. And I think we were looking for sort of new, fertile ground in that area. Like, we sort of had done the Ayn Rand thing and the sort of the Art Deco thing and the sort of the cultural things that were going on in that period in history. And so we started thinking about what other periods might we like to explore. And we always like to find areas that are not very commonly explored. Like, Bioshock 1 is 1959, 1960, and that's not a lot of people were working in that space because it's sort of between the war and between the 60s, And you look at Bioshock Infinite, it's 1912, and we were just really interested in that period because there was so much going on in that period from a historical standpoint, from a cultural standpoint, from a political standpoint, and but there's not a lot of people had explored it. I think we got first tuned into it by a bunch of the artists had read a book called Devil in the White City, which is about the 1893 World's Fair and what that meant for the culture of the time. And it sort of launched this whole period of America finding its feet in the world and sort of the kind of technologies of the 20th century sort of first being on display. And I think that was a bit of an impetus for us.
So can you talk a little about the fictional world you've created for this game and what's going on in it?
So Columbia is a reflection of sort of an idealized, well, at least in the heads of the creators, an idealized reflection of America at the time. Sort of when people think back of the good old days of America, they sort of think of, in their head, they might see what you might see in Columbia. This sort of, this always looks sort of like July, this beautiful July 4th summer's afternoon with the flowers blowing in the wind and the bunting, the red, white, and blue bunting up and the gazebos, and just this feeling of a past that maybe was and maybe never was. And so we wanted to sort of start with that world, this sort of idealized vision of America, and then sort of what we always like to do in the same way. Bioshock 1 is a sort of idealized version of New York in the 1950s. They start with this idealized vision of America and then see what happens when those ideas get taken to beyond their even the logical extreme, and people run a little far afield of the sort of vision of America and this dream of America. And then what conversely happens on the other side in the demo today you saw. The kind of movement that comes out comes out as a response to that, this internationalist movement, this workers' movement, the Vox Populi.